So this video is for you if you're an engineer and you're struggling to get more than 50% of your matches on dating apps or online to reply to you. And if that is the case, then you likely have a texting problem. And the objective of this video is to fix it once and for all. So the problem that all you lovely nerds have is that since your craft, you're engineers, your craft is highly analytical, you live and breathe formulas, problem solving, and algorithms. And you spend all day in front of the computer coding or like stuff like that. And so when you go and you interact with the opposite sex, then you tend to be very analytical with that as well. But that's a problem because it doesn't work very well. Why? Because women tend to be more emotional. They feel more than guys. When interacting with women, you must learn how to context switch from logical to emotional. This is very important. And this is the reason why we help engineers, because there is a lot of need, because a lot of engineers need this kind of help. And a good way to do so is studying why lines work. Now, when I say lines, what am I talking about? I am talking about pickup lines, or I'm talking about like funny lines, all these things. Now, I'm not a big fan of pickup lines, but there is a reason why they work. And so we want to extrapolate the reason and then adapt it to ourselves so it's congruent. So who am I to speak about this? Well, hi. My name is Elia. I am 27 from Italy. I grew up as a major introvert. I got bullied a lot. I had a lot of acne, and I grew up with overprotective parents. And so I struggled to develop my own independence, and that showed in school. I didn't pick my own clothes up until like 16 years old. Just embarrassing, but that's the truth. My mom picked them for me. And I was very segregated. I didn't really have friends, and I was the last person to be picked for like team sports in school. And it was a very hard time. And so I make these videos so that you or someone you know doesn't have to go through the same struggle I did. I turned my life around by working on my social skills. I did a lot of cold approaching. I worked on myself a lot of personal development, etc., etc. And since 2019, I've been helping engineers with their dating lives, with their cold approaching and with their online dating. And when I was 17 years old, I set up some goals for myself. One of them was to find a model girlfriend. Is it superficial? Yes, but that's what I cared about. Then I went to Malaysia. I met Nella. She was on a modeling contract in Kuala Lumpur. And she's now my partner in life and in business. And these are some of her modeling pictures in, I think, China and maybe Japan, or I think both of them are China. And this is us going to the opera in Warsaw. Let's go over some logical versus emotional messages. The logical opener, the one that you would say after you had a long day at work and you've been coding all day and you start swiping on dating apps and you're like, hey, nice to meet you. So like, hey, you look good. Now, this is not necessarily the big opener, but this is a logical sentence. It's logical. And so we want to change it around and we want to go into an emotional opener. Something like, how much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice. Hey, my name is... Hey, I am... So... This works because it's funny. I don't have to explain why it's funny, but you get it. This is an emotional opener. It's funny, and so it works. There is a reason why it works. Now, the downside of it is it might have been used many times, and so they might have seen that before. I solved that issue at the end of this video. Now, let's talk about a logical late or flake situation. Hey, you're late. What's going on? So this is something that you would say if you have a date planned, you show up to the place and she doesn't show up. And it's been like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You text them and you're like, hey, you're late. What's going on? So that's a logical approach. And it makes sense you would be logical at this point. You're probably kind of pissed. But what I would recommend you do is instead, you go into an emotional late or flake situation. Whatever. I dedicated my life to building orphanages for puppies that cannot bark. Don't make excuses because you can't show up on time. The puppies can't wait. So this is the same situation. It's the same exact situation. Like, you're late. What's going on? Give me some updates. But the way you say it is so radically different. Because in number one, you might come across as buttered. You might come across as like, man, like kind of like annoyed. So it doesn't help you with your chances with dates. With option number two, you still achieve the desired purpose of reaching out to them and asking what's up, while also not coming across as buttered, showing that you still have a good mood, showing that you have a certain degree of like security to yourself. And that's very attractive. And so that's why you would want to choose something like this. And then we have a logical ghost recovery. So the context of this is you would send this message when you have been messaging them a few times and they didn't reply to you. In this situation, a logical ghost recovery might be, hey, I've been messaging you a few times, but I didn't hear back from you. So like, what's up? The frame here is, I'm not super happy about this, kind of get your shit together, which is fair. It's a fair frame. It just doesn't help you with your chances. So you got to put that aside and focus on the thing that actually does work. So that is the emotional ghost recovery. So this is actually supposed to be a dear diary, cute girl vanished. Should I send a search party? That's it. So that's actually what it looks like. This works because it's funny. Because it shows you don't look better. It's reaching out to them, achieving your desired purpose of like following up with them, but not in a way that actually lowers your chances, in a way that increases your chances of them replying to you. So that's what you want to focus on. Something I had when I was starting up, I didn't like lines. And the reason why I didn't like lines, because I was like, I'm a special snowflake. I am this way. Like, this is the way I am. Like, I don't want to talk about things that are like not true. And like, maybe I was just very sensitive, but like, I personally didn't like necessarily saying like all these things. Oh, I dedicated my life to building orphanages for puppies. Like, I didn't do that. So it doesn't feel good for me to say this. The emotional versions are funny, engaging, and maintain the message's original intent without being boring. You might feel that you can see them working, but you don't feel congruent with the way you normally communicate. That's normal, and that's the point. So this is actually important. Let's go over it. That's the point for you to feel like that's normal, that you feel like these are incongruent, because you are probably coming from this perspective, like boring. Okay, like you want to switch to the opposite point. And so that's what we want. We want that to feel a slightly incongruent, because you also want to get out of your comfort zone. And so it's about finding a balance between getting out of your comfort zone and actually finding things that are congruent with you, so that it doesn't feel like you're being you're being fake. In an ideal scenario, you wouldn't be fake at all. If you feel comfortable using lines, awesome, do that. Use lines. If you feel uncomfortable, if you're like me, then option number one, get more lines. If you expand your library of lines, you will find some of them are more congruent. Funny, just volume. You just increase the amount of lines you get. You find some you like, and then you use them. And then modify the lines. Like literally, at a mastery level, once you become a master at this, you actually are able to analyze why the lines work, and then you apply that to yourself. And so you're like, wow, like, I guess this is funny. Like, I dedicated my life to building orphanages. Like, so you make up your own side, your own like twist to it, you know? And that's what at the end, like what a master looks like, someone that can do that. Any case, so you can modify the lines. You can make them yours. For example, instead of building orphanages for puppies that cannot bark, you can say cats that cannot meow. You know, the structure is the same, but say that you are actually more like you just have like cats. You actually have cats in your life. Then you would say something like that. The humor remains, but the congruency increases. So modify the lines however you find them more congruent to you. And then study them and make them your own. That's the point I was making about mastery. This is my favorite because it turns you into an expert into the field. It is time consuming, but it's also the most effective in creating lasting behavioral change. And so from my perspective, the way you would want to start is if you feel it's fine with you to go with number one, or just, I would do all three of them. That's what I would do personally if I was you. Okay, so this is communication. So right now we're talking about texting, but at the end of the day, communication is verbal, is digital, and communication should be thought through in terms of vertical integration. And you should aim to have congruence throughout every single part of the dating sequence. And so if you're using dating apps, the pictures should be congruent with the bio, which should be congruent with the messaging, which should be congruent with the dates. That's how you get results. When it comes to the transformation that we're doing, we're using dating ads. And so we want to make, we specifically focus on making sure that each part of the communication, the ad, the messaging, the date, and beyond, is both emotional congruent, emotional, that's like actually like not boring, and it's congruent with you. And this is the focus that you want to have. This also applies to things like cold approaching. If you're like going out during the day or during the night, the way you talk has to be congruent with the way you approach has to be congruent with the way that you look on dates and the way you are after that. So congruency is very important. And then do the same, it will be impossible for you not to get great results. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to find a girlfriend and you like us to help you with reviewing your skills, sign up for a call in the link in my bio. Hey guys, this is Elia from the future, and that is to say that we have reached our official capacity within the Ideal Partner Tester program. And therefore, as of right now, we do not accept any more testers. But do not fear, because we will be opening up again, this time with an official release. And therefore, if you're interested into finding a long-term partner as an engineer, I recommend that you fill out this waitlist form and you give us this information so that we can determine whether we are a good fit to work together. With this said, if you don't see this form and instead you see a link similar, for example, to something like this, or it could be Calendly, it could be OneSub, or something else. If you see a scheduler link, that means that we have slots that are open within the program to work together. And so if that is the case, you can completely disregard what I'm saying right now and go and book a call with me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to either contact you or talk to you soon. Ciao.